two, three.
Well, you can, if you have very disciplined mind, then you can use your mind to just create reality by really holding a thought until it gets integrated in reality. But that's not really my approach. I just want to also mention that. My approach is recognizing via the mind, so exploration of what is going on within the person, and then undoing what is not real, not true, and not good for the person. In other words, it all comes down to choice. At some point in our lives, we made a choice to believe something, which is very understandable. Kids go through really hard times. Our parents weren't loved unconditionally as they ought to have been, and their parents, and so on and so forth. So children adopt false beliefs to survive their lack of love environment when they're growing up. That it helps them survive by, it's like a band-aid at the time. But then as they grow older, that very band-aid starts to become their ball and chain, and their what was killing them, slowly or quickly. So the way the mind heals is by recognizing what the problem is, realizing that there's choice, that I made that choice to believe that, realizing that that's not a good choice anymore, and then to let it go.
This year, skip breaking a sweat and get 3 months unlimited mobile service at mintmobile.com/transform for just $15 a month.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Dr. Moshe Daniel Block. Dr. Moshe and I are going to be talking on the topic, the mind healing power, unlocking transformation that lasts. Welcome, Dr. Moshe.
Thank you, Myrna. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Well, yes, thank you for being here too. I love anything about the mind. So we're talking today about the healing power of the mind, which is my favorite subject. All right. So as we dive in, let me give you a brief introduction. Dr. Moshe is a highly accomplished neuropathic doctor, author, and pioneer in the mind-body healing. As an advocate for physiological approach to healing, messed up that word, Dr. Moshe authored The Revolution of Neuropathic Medicine, Remaining True to Your Philosophy. He later published Holistic Counseling, Introduction to the VISC Dialogue in 2016, which introduced his unique method, the VISC Dialogue, a holistic counseling technique uniting mind, body, medicine, and psychology. Having personally overcome myasthenia gravis, a rare autoimmune disorder, using neuropathic principles, Dr. Moshe offers one-on-one healing programs aimed at helping patients navigate chronic illness and personal suffering by finding the kingdom in you. His work continues to make an impact in the fields of neuropathic and holistic medicine, offering a unique blend of traditional and modern healing philosophies. Amazing. Yes. The mind-body connection is powerful. I practice healing my body all the time by concentrating on where it hurts. And I'm not even a doctor. I'm not even a guru, and I can make it work. So I can imagine if you've got proper training and you've got guidance from a neuropathic doctor, that you can do so much more. So, Dr. Moshe, as we start off, my first question I have here for you, you guide your patients to uncover and relieve limiting beliefs and emotional blockages that hold patterns of illness in the body. How do we hold patterns of illness in the body, and why?
Oh, great question. I love this question. So We've heard from Eastern philosophies and cosmologies like that the mind and body are one, and I see it as a relationship where the body reflects what's going on in the mind. So our bodies, these vessels that we inhabit, are designed to respond to harmony and healthy ways of thinking, or to reflect unhealthy and toxic ways of thinking. Just like if you eat toxic food, your body accumulates toxins. Well, if you think toxic and false thoughts, your body will store these in by reflecting the nature of the energy of what the thought is about. So if a person has literally feels like the weight of the world is resting on their shoulders, they'll have shoulder issues. If they feel like they're weak and incapable, well, then some part of their body will stop functioning at full strength. It will feel weak. I myself had an experience with autoimmune disease where I discovered this mind body connection because my body was attacking itself. Autoimmune is that, like, the body is literally attacking itself, right?
Right.
Because I was attacking myself. I was being very hard on myself. I was judging myself critically for not being perfect. So first I had this false belief that I needed to be perfect, and then I would be the judge, jury, and executioner when I wasn't, and I would attack myself, and then the body just basically reflects that like a faithful puppy dog. And so that's how the body stores the information that's being conveyed to it by the mind, and it doesn't have the choice. It just does so without questioning, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that before, but I love your word patterns of illness. So what is a pattern? Based on, let's say we're using your same analogy. What is a pattern, right?
A pattern is like a theme, a repetitive theme that a person will continue to do in certain given situations. So let's say a person has an issue around authority because one of their parents or both were domineering, and then they're like, we could respond in different ways to that. We could become very meek and like sucking up, sycophantic, or sucking up to authority, or we could be like strong fisted and like rebellious and like nobody's going to tell me what to do. But let's say we have an issue around authority, then whenever we encounter or think we encounter someone in a position of authority, there'll be a pattern of response. So it might initially be an anger reaction, depending on where the person carries this. If they carry it strictly in the subconscious and then there's no expression, when they rub up against authority, it'll trigger a reaction in them to either become, get into a stress reaction. They might get stressed out, might start sweating, they might feel lightheaded, or they might literally be some kind of reaction to that. So a pattern of illness is something that we could see, which is not just a one-off thing. It's something that's repeated. It's related to our karma. So if you have karma, right, it means that you're getting it means there's something to look at there. When we have a pattern, it means it's something to look at for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I understand the reaction because I do a lot of conversations on this show about trauma and childhood trauma and you know we hold issues in our tissues, one of my favorite titles, things like that. But what I didn't understand is the patterns of illness. So we understand, not everyone has an autoimmune disease, but let's say that maybe I might get colds all the time because talk about something that someone gets all the time, like the flu or something, because of a pattern of thought. That's what I'm trying to think. How do we hold the patterns? Right.
Okay, so let's say, very often if somebody's getting continual colds or flus, then there's obviously a problem there. So then we would trace the problem down and try to determine what's leading to it. So one common pattern of illness is that people overdo it, and they don't listen to their bodies. They don't get enough rest. They don't eat well enough. They're probably not getting very good water. And so there's a disconnect with their literally not listening to their body and their emotional field. So what's that about? It could be about a number of things, but one of the things that it might be about is that the person is pushing themselves because they're trying to gain value externally by some form of success.
Right, right.
That's why they push themselves, because they think, well, my value only comes by X, Y, or Z. $1 million a year, fancy clothes, whatever.
Right.
And so they're pushing themselves. So really, the pushing themselves is not the root cause. It's just the problem. They're pushing themselves beyond what their body can handle, not getting enough rest. But it all boils down to the belief that I gain my value by being successful. And that's not uncommon in America. It's quite a common pattern.
Right.
Yeah, we all feel like I am inherently not good enough. This is the belief. I'm inherently not good enough, and therefore, in order to be good enough, I need to have the perfect body, or I need to be making a lot of money, or that kind of a thing. Then I'm good enough. So I will override my natural bodily inclinations and needing rest and good food, and that can predispose me to getting lots of flus. And the flus are messages. It's like, hey, slow down, not not only slow down, but find your value beyond what you think you need to do to have value.
Okay. All right. So that reminds me of a saying that I heard that, when you said listen to your body, pain is your body trying to make you slow down. It's trying to get your attention. And a lot of people override it or take a pill or override it because they've got stuff to do. I remember a book that I read where this guy was like running on broken legs, strapping it up with duct tape, that kind of thing. So I understand what you're saying, that, sometimes the body tries to get your attention by all these flus and things like that because of the patterns that you're creating. That's amazing. All right. So let's talk about the mind. You say the mind is the most powerful place for healing and is truly the root cause of illness. So how do we heal the mind? How we use the mind to heal the body?
Oh, I love this question. So first of all, those are my words, and I do put that in relative, like when we're talking about what you mostly encounter out there in the world, especially in conventional medicine and even in functional medicine and even in naturopathic medicine, is this idea that, well, there's something wrong with the body, so we have to give it something, or we have to do surgery. So we need to give it a supplement or a drug. So it's very material based. So in relation to the material based general approach, the mind is the most powerful. But I do think that there are levels of us, of human beings, in relation to the divine nature of God that are even more powerful than the mind, say, which is just pure faith. Now, I think that also involves the mind, but I just wanted to set that caveat right before diving in. So how does the mind heal the body? Well, you can, if you have very disciplined mind, then you can use your mind to just create reality by really holding a thought until it gets integrated in reality. But that's not really my approach. I just want to also mention that. My approach is recognizing via the mind, so exploration of what is going on within the person, and then undoing what is not real, not true, and not good for the person. In other words, it all comes down to choice. At some point in our lives, we made a choice to believe something, which is very understandable. Kids go through really hard times. Our parents weren't loved unconditionally as they ought to have been, and their parents, and so on and so forth. So children adopt false beliefs to survive their lack of love environment when they're growing up. That, it helps them survive by, it's like a Band-Aid at the time. But then as they grow older, that very Band-Aid starts to become their ball and chain, and their what was killing them, slowly or quickly. So the way the mind heals is by recognizing what the problem is, realizing that there's choice, that I made that choice to believe that, realizing that that's not a good choice anymore, and then to let it go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I thought we were gonna go in the direction of, like if you believe something can happen, then it will happen. For instance, we talk about the placebo effect, where I've heard a lot of people talk about, you can do surgery and thinking you're going to get anesthetic, and you don't get anesthetic and you don't feel any kind of pain. So is that something that you do as well, or are you just reconditioning the mind belief?
So yeah, so like I said, like if you have a very strong will, you can do something like that. You could believe it will happen, it will happen. But that's not my approach.
Okay. All right.
I think we all have that gift, that ability. It does take a lot of discipline, and it requires a kind of an inception of one's person, like by fully believing it and then letting it go to God's will. So this is that approach that we're talking about. And so people tend to be balanced one way or another, like very heavily intellectual, but lacking the ability to let go to God. And some people are very letting go to God, but they don't have much intellectual.
Right.
So it requires kind of like a balance between the two. So it's a rare gift that people can do that. So I don't emphasize that too much. What I rather focus on, and everybody could do this, although it's harder for some than others, but everybody can do this, is recognize the false belief and see how it's hurting them. Because we'll often identify with a belief and think it's good for me. And so you have to first divest from that. You have to remove your heart's desire from that belief and supporting it, and then transforming that, whether it be very quickly, like in the blink of an eye, Myrna, or months and months and months of dedicated work to reverse old patterns of thought that have become habitual. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So let's dive in and go a little deeper and give an example. So the example that I can give is there's some people do endurance training where they run, I mean, a marathon, or they run 10 miles a day. And their belief is that if they run this 10 miles a day, which is very, very hard on the body, but if they run 10 miles a day, then maybe they'll live longer, or they'll be healthier, or I don't know. But they've got this kind of belief, which I'm sure is a false belief. So how do you go about divesting them from that belief? Because obviously we're talking about illnesses. They're gonna, running is very hard for you. So your legs are gonna give out, or your joints are gonna give out. You're gonna be, you know, thin. There's a whole bunch of things that goes with this running 10 miles a day kind of thing. That's the only one I can think of. But right. So let's talk about that one for a minute. How do you get them to remove that from their psyche?
It's impossible unless there's some kind of suffering as a result of the false belief.
Oh.
So a person will not, you can't, you can lead a horse to water.
But you can't with
Well, you can't even lead them to the water, never mind get them to drink the water, if they are still invested in their ego and still liking the results, the fruits of their egoic labor. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong, quote unquote, nothing wrong with that per se, because each of us is a divine being clothed in a temporary body, and we can experience life as we want, as long as we're not imposing our will on others. That's an important rule in the whole thing.
I like that.
Yeah, do what you want, but don't force anybody to do anything. Don't force your will on something. So let's say that person came and then they couldn't run anymore. They had a problem. Well, then the choice has to be offered to them, because what a person will often do is they'll seek their naturopath, like myself, or a healer, when they can no longer perform the egoic's desire. That's the moment that they come. So let's say a person runs around trying to give to everybody because inside of themselves they don't feel much love. So they gain their value by helping people. This is a common. It's a good one. I mean, it's better than, beating people up to sure. Helping people's nice. It's nice. But what they're exhausting themselves. They have chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, right? Because they're running. So they'll come to the doctor, naturopathic doctor or healer, and they'll say, "Doctor, I have no energy. I can't, be there for everybody in my life." So a naturopath is faced with a choice. Do I just support their adrenals and boost their energy system and their digestive process so that they can continue to run around to fulfill their ego's idea? And it's an illusion that they have to gain their value only by helping everybody. Or do we help them see that the reason why they're exhausted is because they're burning the candle at both ends because they don't believe that they're good enough? So ultimately, my approach, of course, is to go at the deeper solution, because that's very rich for helping that person evolve to realize who they really are. Right? Like,
I love it. That's why your approach is psychological. I see that. Yes, that's good. Good.
it is psychological. And, even though people do suffer, sometimes, not all the time, very rarely, I'll get someone who just can't let go of their attachment to their belief system. So in that case, their solution has to be superficial and suppressive of the symptoms because they're not willing to go right at the cause. So they're going to look for a more superficial approach so that they don't have to change. And that's a medicine. I don't practice that way. I don't like to practice that way. It feels empty and unfulfilling to me.
Because I can see you're coming from a position of faith when you talk about the kingdom in you. But let's give that example of this person that gets their value from helping everyone. And a lot of mothers are like that. They help them. They're givers, they're healers, they're nurturers, right? And at the end of the day, they have nothing left in their tank. So if you tell this, mother or this, minister, because ministers do the same thing too, they heal everybody, and then their life is going down the toilet because they have got nothing left for their families or whatever. So you say to them, you need to change your belief, and you need to change your thinking. And maybe they try it for a couple of weeks and they can't, they go back to, I mean, I think I heard something the other day, a saying that says, water only always finds its own level or something. So they go back to their natural way of doing things. So then do you help them out by giving them adrenal support, or you say, I can't help you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'm okay. So I kind of like, I've learned after, I've been practicing for 25 years that the symptoms are like a pressure cooker, which pushes a person in the direction that really their soul is calling them to go. The reason why they've manifested their problem is because they're living out of harmony with their true self. So the symptoms are a pressure cooker. So I don't like to relieve the pressure cooker. It's like holding yourself over the coals, the fire coals, right? If we just like, okay, you're not going to do it. All right, you tried and too bad. It didn't work. All right, let me just help you out this way. I wouldn't do that. In some situations though, the situation does make sense to just do a superficial rescue of the person because they can't heal. They're not in a position to heal. They have such low energy that they can't even think. So they can't access their mind to do anything. They're totally wiped out emotionally. So they do need some support in those situations. And so, yes, I will do that when it makes sense. But just because a person's like, I went back to my old ways, I'm not going to just bail them out I'm gonna bring them back to that place.
Okay.
I'll bring them back to that place. And you know, um, when people, it's okay that they can't get it right away. They're not, it's not high school and you're going to fail out of life if you don't get it right away. That's okay. And it's understandable, right? But really, that having the symptoms be there, people, usually the symptoms will manifest in such a way that it's very inconvenient for the person. They're not happy with those symptoms. Not a lot of people are okay with the symptoms that manifest, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's God's way. You know, it's God slash the truth, and those are one and the same to me. It's the truth's way of pushing that person to wake up. So the symptoms are a messenger, a blessing in that regard. Yeah. So unless necessary, and sometimes it is, but unless necessary, we don't want to touch those symptoms in that way. We want to help the person heal from within, and then the symptoms will naturally resolve.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. That's true. Yeah. Well, that's being committed to your belief system and belief that you can help the person. So I love that. Right. So it might take a little longer, but right, because I know there's people that are very, very unable to make changes. They're like stuck on it.
They don't realize they haven't gone deep enough. When we go deep enough, Myrna, you can't deny the truth when you go deep enough. You know, like let's say somebody's depressed. I used to think when I was like a kid, just get over it. Change your mind. Just get over it. You know, stop thinking depressed thoughts. Just get over it. Until I myself experienced tremendous depression, and I understood how anybody could fall, and how deep that could be, and how hard it is to navigate. Um, However, by going deep enough, we get to that point inside where on the surface it's very tumultuous, like the ocean, a lot of movement of waves. But when we get deep, we get into a very place of organization, of calm and peace that informs the truth. So when we get to that place where we realize that truth, we don't need to make as big an effort to try to force our will to change. We realize it's just wrong for us to believe that. So it can clear and it can come back. But then going back to the truth, it's like another dose of the remedy. You get another dose of that remedy of truth. And eventually, and it could be one time or it could be 25 times. It depends on the person, depends on how long they've carried it, how old they are, lifetimes. We could be talking lifetimes. But eventually it clicks, and then they're past that, and it's not a battle anymore with the ego. Like, I gotta force myself. Don't eat that chocolate cake. I want the chocolate cake. Don't eat the chocolate cake. We don't need to do that anymore.
Wow, I love that. That's going to be my biggest aha moment from our conversation today, I think, because you're right. I was under the impression that yeah, you can't tell somebody to get over it because it's a chemical imbalance and there's a whole bunch of things going on. But I also know the analogy of, because I've heard it before, where, there could be a storm happening and there's all these winds and the waves. But if you go deeper into the ocean, it's calm. So you're using that analogy to heal yourself. You go to the calm, and I like the word that you use, it's all organized. And if you can get there, if you can get deep and you go to the source, I was listening to a sermon on the weekend, and the pastor said that you always have to understand the source. You have to take an axe to the root. And I love that because yes, and you go to the root, if you follow the roots all the way down to the earth, and you understand what's coming up that tree, right? And you get there. So that's amazing. You mean you should be a psychologist instead of a doctor. Are you both?
Well, yes, in a way, I'm both. Like naturopathic doctor. So I'm a naturopathic doctor, and in our scope of practice, we learn counseling. So we're allowed to be counselors slash psychotherapists.
Right.
And so what I'm doing is I'm focusing on that modality. Although I also do homeopathy, and the two go really well together. But yeah, I am a kind of a psychologist in a different way. The V's dialogue that I've developed after 25 years of practice, based on the work of Barry Neil Kaufman, called the Optiva dialogue. I I ask people questions to get them to reflect deeper and deeper. I don't give advice. I don't give advice. I once in a while, when we get down to the place of peace and organized truth where the person is seeing, then I'll share my insights, but it's from a position where they already are there. I don't give advice because I've noticed, Myrna, I'll be working with someone and I'll be asking them questions. And if I start to talk like a doctor, like I have a position of authority, of knowledge or expertise, the person's look on their face changes, and they'll go from reflecting within, and they look like they're empowered, they're being themselves, to like externalizing. They'll start staring at me like I'm the guru, I have all the answers, and their god-given ability to know themselves and to recognize truth in themselves goes out the window. It goes right out the window. So that I'm very, very careful around that dynamic, and I use my authority, and I'm putting quotation marks, or because there is some authority being a doctor. I use that authority to just ask questions and to be aware of where I want a person to go, and not let them squirrel away from where they need to see, because people do like to squirrel as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
I'm getting a lot from this conversation. Boy, there's so many nuggets. This is like my fourth one. But
Good, good.
it's really interesting. When I was in coaching school, that's exactly what they told you to do. They said that you um never give advice. You always uncover it, right? And then everybody started away from that coaching practice. Like when somebody comes to me now for coaching, they want you to tell them, what's the plan?
Yeah, yeah,
How are you going to do it? Are you going to get there? That's all
yeah.
a different thing. So I understand exactly what you're there. You are the guru. And you know what? That does not have transformation. It is going to be a small change, or a change for a short time. And then again, they're going to go back because it didn't come from deep. I love what you say. It didn't come deep,
Yeah.
didn't come from the root, didn't come from organized thought. It came from somebody else's words, right?
That's right. That's right. And those, I mean, the problem with someone else's words is a number of problems with that. The first one is they could be wrong, and often are. I don't want to say all the time, but they often are. I've heard all kinds of advice that people have gotten from their counselors, psychotherapists, and I hit my head like this. I go, oh my gosh, okay, we got to work here. We got some work to do. Um, Secondly, is if it is correct and they get it from advice from someone else, it's like, how does the rat feel when it gets the cheese at the end of the maze? It's like, oh, I made it through. I took all the turns. I made some wrong turns, and here I am, and I get my reward. When when we give something that's the truth externally like that through advice, we remove the glory and there's a kind of a reward, a feedback system of I got here by my own, and that's very valuable. And again, sometimes just like the same when we were talking about the principle of sometimes we do need to support a person when they're totally out of their bodies, minds, emotions, totally sick. The same applies to a little bit of external guidance. It's okay. It's not evil. You're not going to go to hell for doing it. It's fine sometimes, but the general, rule of thumb here is like the magic comes from people waking up to what they need to see about themselves by themselves, right? Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. All right. So, for someone who feels stuck in their healing journey, what is the first thing? What's the first step that they can take to tap into the mind's potential to shift their health? So, let's say, use an analogy that we used before, where this person is exhausted because they feel that they have to help, they have to do this, and they might think that God wants them to do it, and that's their ministry or whatever, but their health is suffering. How do you get them to shift?
Okay, so I'm assuming that they're coming to my practice to work with me, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because I mean, I think it's important to talk about this because I don't intervene with people that I have.
If they don't ask for help, you don't help them. That's what you're saying.
If they don't ask for help, I don't help them. I might say something, but very gently and respecting where they are in their life. I used to really, I think all people have this, like you really want to help people. And so you say stuff and you get frustrated because your family's not listening to you. And maybe people, you could help. If they would just listen, I could help them.
Right.
I don't do that anymore just because it's not my place. And I help people when they come to see me. That's what. So assuming, okay, so they're coming to see me and they have a problem, right? So the problem is the seed through which I will help them. We always start with the problem. So let's say it's exhaustion. I will ask them, how does that feel? And they'll say, I just feel totally burnt out. I feel I have no life left in you. And I'll say, what's that like for you not to have any life left in you? And they might say, I feel very frustrated about it. And I'll just keep going. I'll just keep asking. This is following the path of that's unfolding. I'll say, what about being exhausted is frustrating for you? Well, I can't help people. I don't have any energy. I can't get up off the couch and I can't help people. And what if you can't help people? Well, then I'm good for nothing. So I'm accelerating the path here, right? But well, sometimes it takes a long time to get there, but I'm accelerating it.
Yeah.
So I would give feedback. So you believe if you can't help people that you're good for nothing. And then I'll say, when we like dust around the edges of what they're saying, we get a clear belief expressed. I'll put it to them, is that true? Is it true that if you can't help people that you are good for nothing? And if let's say they say, yes, it's true. I'll say, okay, so you believe that your value comes only from helping people. I make it obvious. I make this feedback helps to make the belief obvious. I keep doubling down on it. So until very often people will say, wow, it does sound really stupid, doesn't it? And that's a good thing when they realize, and not
On their own too, Mark. Yes. You didn't tell them that's very stupid. I like it. I like it.
right. I didn't tell them. They realized it. And not to be harsh or judgy against ourselves, but to see the absurdity of the thought is a very good step in the direction. Oh my gosh, when you put it that way, I only think I'm good enough if it's a condition. So then I'll use the model of which I believe is very true for each of us, that we are unconditionally loved. We are unconditionally okay in the great creation of the divine creator. And this is the kingdom that I speak of, the kingdom of heaven. I mean, that we all speak of, really. And the truth is, each of us is unconditionally okay. We don't need anything externally to validate our existence, to validate our worth. So this sets people free, just that awareness. So working with that model, I don't always say that in the actual meeting, but unless somebody's stuck, then I'll paint this picture for them, because the inherent nature is there to just catch them in its arms, that I am unconditionally okay. So basically, it's getting the person to realize, oh, I have this condition on my being. I'm only okay or only good enough if I'm helping everybody. Sometimes I'll help paint it in a conditional I am statement. So I'll say, I help, therefore I am. meaning my very existence depends on being able to help. This is false. And just helping this state, this really deep, it really unravels it for people. That often is helpful for them to sink their teeth in. I help, therefore I am. Or I am respected, therefore I am. Or I am rich, therefore I am. These are all things that I've encountered with people. And then I put the question to them, is that a way that you want to continue to live? And they'll say, most of the time, they'll say no. And then they'll say, but I swear, everybody does that. And that's good too. This is all how it unfolds. This is all the steps of how it unfolds. I no, I don't live this way, but it feels so true. So then we'll work, and this is where a lot of the deep work comes in, to divest everything that comes up that resists that change. That's what we do.
Wow. Wow. I absolutely love it. I can see it working in not even in health related issues, because a lot of people go around believing that you're right, they're not good enough. And it's the most, I think that anytime someone has a problem, 99 or 95% of it is usually a feeling of unworthiness or you're not good enough. So, I mean, it doesn't always manifest in an illness, and they don't always run to a neuropathic doctor, but you know, their belief system and their psyche and the depression and all the things that come with an unfulfilled life is a result of that. So I love the work that you do. And maybe I'm wrong when I say that doesn't manifest in health issues, but it probably does, like headaches or
Well, it's be suffering.
right.
It's stuff. It will guaranteed
Yes.
manifest in suffering. So as soon as we have a false thought, like let's say we take Buddha or Christ or Krishna from all these different religions, we call them the masters, these master beings. If they developed a false thought, it would feel like a rub, and it would be like the pee under the mattress. It would, and then the emotion would accumulate around that and start to get dark, and then they would suffer from this dark, heavy feeling instead of the lightness of being. And then that would become bodily issues, and then they would suffer because they can't pick up a bag of groceries or walk up the stairs anymore, or et cetera, et cetera. So the suffering starts. You know what? Some of the worst suffering is when it's that teeny little rub and it's the pee under the mattress. That's the worst, because the pee will feel like a mountain of discomfort in a system that is almost completely harmonious. Right.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah.
That I like that. Yes, suffering, that's a big word, right? Because yes, it might not be exhaustion and it might not be an autoimmune disease, but you are going to suffer. I love that. Yes, you
Yeah.
are going to suffer. And then if you're suffering and your thoughts are not healthy, it does manifest in your body somehow. So I like that. And maybe as soon as I asked the question, I realized that yeah, it has to come at one end. People get heart attacks, their blood pressure. Those are the things always, they're suffering. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love what you just talked about there about uncovering the to get to the calm at the bottom of the storm, and with your dialogue. So let's talk about your VIS dialogue holistic counseling technique, and
Yeah.
uh, I know you have a book about it, so let's
Yeah.
talk about that. Right.
Yeah, so I gave you a basic overview of what it looks like. It's this system of asking questions. And I train practitioners in doing this, healthcare practitioners, and some lay people when they're into yoga, they're into Taoism, they're into like meditation, and they want to learn how to help others with this. I will train them. Um, and the V's Dialogue, yeah, I have a book. It's available at Amazon. It's just called Holistic Counseling with no W, by myself, Dr. Moshe Daniel Block. And the subtitle is Introducing the Beast Dialogue. A lot of people have gotten a lot out of reading it because they start to ask themselves questions. And that's something that they could do. Anybody could do this, is just ask yourself questions and create a little app in the back of your mind. You don't need a lot of, free memory there. Just a little, just low energy running app to monitor what you're thinking on a day-to-day basis, on a minute-to-minute basis. Not like an insane person, like scrutinizing every thought, because you could drive yourself nuts with that. But just very mildly, just learn to watch your thoughts and watch your feelings. And then you can spot those moments in time when certain thoughts just, wow, I don't, gosh, that's not a very good thought. I don't want to think that. It's not true. It's not helping me, or it's not good for me. Any one of those three, that's a thought that you want to put out the window. And so, I mean, all these things lead us on a path of discovery, right? Like, I would urge people to take the step if they haven't fully committed to the path of discovery, a path of truth, the path of healing, and these are all the same. So the V's dialogue is, I offer my services, and I also train people to help people on their evolutionary path through the path of suffering. Yeah, through the suffering. And often that suffering has become physical, but it could just be mental or emotional. There's plenty of mental health issues on the planet right now, and emotional issues.
Yeah. Well, that's basically where I was going with the question originally. And then I realized that, yes, there's going to be some outlets, whether, you just wrapped it up in a bow there, whether it's mental suffering or whether it's bodily suffering, or it is going to, it is going to manifest itself in some way. Now, as you were talking, I get thoughts in my mind, and I've learned to catch them. And I did an episode way back years ago about ants, automatic negative thoughts, and all I could do myself when it comes to me is like shake my head and be aware of it. But what do you do with it? What do you do? What do you teach people to do with these thoughts when you catch them?
Well, that's the thing about deep diving. Again, we need to deep dive, because in order for a person to really let go of something, they have to see the choice that they have. And that really comes because these thoughts, these ants you're talking about,
Yes, right.
they dwell in the subconscious mind. And for me, the subconscious mind, I mean, we sometimes it sounds very mysterious, but for me, the subconscious mind is simply a layer of thought that you forgot you have always been thinking. So as a kid, you thought about it a lot, and then it went sort of a little bit back. It went into the back of your mind, and then it went beyond the back of your mind into your subconscious. So those are happening nonstop, but we forget that that's what we were thinking. So you need to remind yourself by deep diving and recognizing it's like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm thinking. And I started that maybe when I was 4 years old or 5 or 10 or whatever. These are when these thoughts usually start. So we can, so it's good to have that full and deep understanding by a deep dive and sit with ourselves till we have that deep clarity. And then if the ant comes up, because it's likely to come up, even after you have the deep dive, it's still going to come up. Then it's good to have a mindfulness, recognize it happen, stop it as early as you can. Don't make it the enemy. Just recognize it. This is why I give people a 3-step homework. I say, okay, can you observe this thought when it's happening, or the pattern, right? Oh, this feeling, I'm not good enough. Or the doing the thing because I feel like I'm not good enough. Any of that pattern, any of that big blob of stuff that comes together, can you recognize it? Most people will say, yes, I can. So the second thing is, don't engage. If you feel like you want to beat the crap out of it and you want it to go away and you want to fight it away, that's engaging. Don't engage in it that way. And also don't engage in by literally like saddling it up and riding it like a horse. Don't jump on it like it's reality. Just sit in that place of observation. Okay, here's what's going on with me. There it is. I know you. You've been with me for a long time, Pattern. Right. I know what you're about. Hi. Just say observe it, but don't feed it. Okay. And then it's going to shrivel up. And at some point, the third stage in this 3-step homework is, I call it optional. But when the time is right, then you let it go. And it might be right. You're laying in bed and like a little breeze blows open the window and you just I don't know, maybe the light of Jupiter is shining through the window and gets you right in the eye. And you're like, okay, I get it. I don't need to carry this anymore. And when you feel that, then really go with it. Just really don't get distracted by anything. Just go deep and let it all go. So that's the 3-step homework.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
Listen, I said this was a great, great conversation. I mean, I love these conversations because, I'm a learner. I'm a lifetime learner, and I'm learning, and I'm thinking of the people I know. I'm thinking of myself, and I'm thinking of how I can benefit from this. And you've said a lot of things. One of the biggest things, like one of the 4 or 5 things that I got from here is, when you say that you always want to help people, but they have to be they're on their own journey. I feel the same way, and I think that, hey, I heard something the other day. It says that the soul has to do its own expression. And yeah, you can't really help people unless they want help. And there's so many people want to fix people, and they really can't fix them until they want to be fixed. So I love our conversation. I love everything about the deep dive. I love the questions, not feeding people the answers. Listen, I love our conversation of
Thank you. Thank you.
our neighbor conversation. This is deep dive to me. It's amazing.
Oh, wonderful. I love it. I love it so much. Just one quick thought about when people want to fix people, they're externalizing their value. That's back to the same principle. If I could fix that person, well, then that reflects
That
well
makes
on
me
me.
feel right, right. Mhm.
And that compensates for how I don't feel good enough in myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Amazing conversation. All right. So you've got a couple books. Tell us about your books. Tell us about your website. You were talking about the one about the vis psychology. You have the revolution of neuropathic medicine, remaining true to your philosophy. So tell us about your books. If you have a website, social media, you can tell us about that so people can follow you and get um uh, attached to this great work that you're doing.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. So the best and easiest way to reach me will be through my website, Dr. Dr. dash like a minus sign Moshe Moshe.com. And then through there, if you're interested in working with me personally, it's clear. You just say like book an appointment or something. That's what it said. And if you want to train with me, you could also reach me through there. Just contact me through there. And my books are Holistic Counseling, Introducing the V's Dialogue on Amazon, and I also have a book called The Revolution of Naturopathic Medicine, it's a philosophical book, and I wrote it basically for the people in the profession as a bit of a wake up call to not try to gain credibility by emulating conventional medicine. Too late, too late. The profession is heavily influenced at the college level by the conventional medical establishment and big pharma and all that stuff. However, naturopathic doctors themselves remain individuals and can practice wonderful stuff based coming from their soul, and that happens all over the place. So it's a wonderful profession. Just unfortunately, the training and the formation right now is compromised. But there are always students going through that like to learn, and so I would refer them to that book. Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. So, Myrna, what a pleasure! Thank you so much. It's such a
You're
great.
very welcome. Well, last question. Are you in social media? What's your social media?
Um, yes, I am. I am on social media. Let me think here. Well, I have a holistic counseling the course on Facebook.
Okay.
And let me see, like on so I should have this like more readily available. I am on Instagram as well. I think under Dr. Moshe you could find me.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Yeah. So yes, when I promote the episode, I always tag you on Instagram. So that's why I asked for that. And then of course yours can follow you to get some more content on this amazing work that you're doing. Listen, yeah, I gained so much from our conversation today, Dr. Moshe. I'm going to go and get your book, this dialogues, because I need to learn how to go deep myself. And I can also share that information with my clients, how to help them go deep as well. So this is amazing. Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What an honor to be on with you. I loved every minute. Thanks, Myrna.
You're very welcome. Well, listen, guys, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Transform Your Mind so you can transform your life. That's what we're talking about here today. The mind's healing power and how we can, use our mind to heal our bodies. So excellent conversation. I will have a summary of my conversation with Dr. Moshe on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will also link out to his book and his website and his social media handles so that you can follow him. So yes, I would love to hear your comments on this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to get involved and, give some feedback. So we can, how you understand this work and things like that. If you're watching this on iTunes, we'd love for you to subscribe, and put in a review. I bring you quality guests like Dr. Moshe every week so that you can transform your mind to transform your life. So thanks again, Dr. Moshe, for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.
Namaste. Bye. Thank you.